So on today's video, we're going to be mounting the Boss. It's a 26-inch long sound bar. It's a Bluetooth sound bar. We're going to mount it to the golf cart. We're also going to mount this DC 48 to 12 volt converter on the golf cart as well. Now, I've previously made a video on this for my club car, but since this is like a 2014 plus Ezgo, I'm going to show you where I have in mind for this DC converter. So my buddy's looking at mounting the sound bar between the rear uprights here and here. Now, I will go ahead and tell you, up here at the very top versus down here at the very bottom, these uprights tend to bend in a little bit. So your measurement's gonna be different up here than it is down here. So he wants the sound bar facing forward there. We're gonna try to get the best location as possible and try to make a mount and mount it there as well. Now for the DC converter, what we're gonna do with it is we're gonna mount it in the dash, behind and underneath the pocket. First, we need to go ahead and take a measurement up here. And once we get this measurement done, we need to make a bar that goes across, paint it, bolt it together, mount the sound bar there, run the wires down one of the bars themselves. As you can tell, I went ahead and fabbed up a mount. I just used some 1x1 box tubing and some flat stock. I've welded it together, grinded it all down, just test fitting it. That's where this right here will be. I've used some clamps to kind of place where I think I'm gonna mount this right here and put them on both sides there so we can rest the bar there and test fit it. So this is what the bar looks like behind my head here. In the mirror, you really can't see it. I could actually move the bar up a little bit where you could have a little bit more room, and we still might. But that's what the bar progress looks like right now. Pretty simple to make. It's just some 1x1 box tubing, some flat stock. I welded it up and grinded it all down. And that's what it looks like. Measuring the sound bar on the width here, it comes out to 26.5 inches long. And that's for the mounts as well. Now the mounts slide inside of a channel here. I went and got some bolts today to go into the mounts because this right here sound bar comes with like a clamp mount, and we're not going to be using that clamp mount. So I went ahead and I marked my center line here by taking a width measurement from this side here to that side there. Now what we're going to do here, we've got our center spot. If it's 26.5, then it's 13.25, and we can go ahead and make a mark here and flip it around and make a mark on the other side as well. So we'll know how many holes we can drill through this right here bar and space them out accordingly. So as you can tell, I drilled 4 holes on the bar here, but I only used the 2 outside pieces of the bar, or actually the 2 outside holes. And it fits pretty good. I went ahead and lined it up pretty good. At like 6 1/8 of an inch here. I think about 6 1/8 of an inch there as well. Now we need to go ahead and find out where we're going to put this on the golf cart, pre-drill the holes, and bolt it up. So I put a piece of tape on this back upright here, and I marked it at 32 inches all the way to the bottom of the bed there. And then I just said, this probably might be too low. So I went up another 1.5 inches to 32 or 33.5 inches there. And I'm going to drill holes here on the other side so we can get this bar mounted. So we went ahead and got the bar mounted. Now I'm trying to clean up these wires here, run them down this back upright here and put them in some wire loom as well, and start the process for the wiring. So in order to wire up your DC converter, you're gonna have 5 wires, so let's go over them. Yeah, the yellow wire is going to be your 48 volt input. This is gonna go to the positive of your battery pack. The black wire is going to be your ground input and output, so you're going to need to carry this black ground to your battery pack ground. The red wire is going to be the wire that's going to supply power to your fuse block here, so we can put fuses before they go to the accessories. Your green wire is going to be your switched input. We're going to want to put this on the key switch side that has 48 volts when the cart is on, not when it's off. The blue wire is going to be your 12 volt output for when the golf cart is in the off position. Say you have a aftermarket car stereo in your golf cart and you want to make sure to keep your clock set and your radio station set. This supplies very little current, just enough to keep memory on those. We will not be using the blue wire in our application today because the soundbar, we don't need to keep memory on anything of it. So on these newer style EasyGo dashes, they have this big pocket here where it mounts your ignition switch, and some people put their light switch or hazard switch. It takes 5 Phillip head screws to remove it. One at the bottom right, one at the bottom left, one at the top right, one at the top left, and one in the center. Once you have those removed, you can remove this pocket. Once this pocket comes out here, you can notice that we went ahead and mounted the DC converter behind it. We're only going to run 3 wires away from it, and one's going to go to the ignition source here for a switched power input. We're going to need to run our ground, we're going to need to run our 12 volt output, and our 48 volt input. All right, so I have my voltmeter set at 200 volts DC, and we do that because if it's set on the 20 volts DC on a 48 volt golf cart, it will not read correctly. Let's go ahead and get our leads set up here and our voltmeter. What we're trying to do in this case here is trying to find the voltage input and the voltage output on the golf cart's on and off key switch. Now we're doing this is because on the 48 volt converter here, it has an option where if you tie into the output wire of the ignition switch here, it'll act as a card and cut on and cut off the accessories. And that's what we want to do. Now I've been probing around here and I found that this yellow wire here on this hazard switch is ground. Now I'm going to touch that to ground. I'm going to touch this right here to this white wire or gray wire on this ignition switch here, and you can tell we got 49 volts right here on this switch. Now if we go to the other wire, we have 0. The reason we have 0 volts here is because it's in the off position. Now we take the key and turn it to the on position, and we touch both of these wires again. We're going to have 49.6, 49.8 volts on the input of the switch. We're going to have 49 volts on the output of the switch. So in our case, we know that this right here wire is going to be our switched on wire for our golf cart key switch. We're going to want to tap this right here wire to our green wire of the DC converter. This will switch the DC converter to the on position when the golf cart's on. It'll switch the DC converter off when the golf cart is off. For all of our connections, we're going to be using solder to solder our connections, and we're going to be using heat shrink to cover the connections. That'll be just a much easier way. Now, if you remember me saying we're not going to use the blue wire, that's on this pigtail here, and the reason we're using blue wire here is because I ran out of green wire to use between here and the switch. Now, we're not going to be able to use heat shrink down here by the switch here, and the reason is because the heat shrink will not make a 3-way connection like that. These 2 solder joints are now finished. We just need to wrap this one with electrical tape and use the heat shrink and cover up that connection there. Right now we have all of our wires hooked up or to the pigtail itself, and the pigtail is already plugged into the unit. So I have the blue wire here going into the switch inputs, going into the green wire of the harness. The yellow and red wire are in the same wire loom. The black ground wire is in the same wire loom. We're going to run these underneath the golf cart into the battery area. Now the wires are coming down the firewall of the golf cart, and they're going through these holes here. And it's going up into the battery compartment there. Now, as you can see, we use some wire loom like we said earlier, and we have your power wire there and your ground wire. Now the black wire is going to need a ring terminal. The yellow wire is going to need a ring terminal. Remember, yellow is your pack positive, black is your pack negative, red is going to go into your fuse box. So right here on the ground, this is the ground wire going to the sound bar here, and the power wire is coming directly out of it. We went ahead and grounded that straight to the battery here. On the power wire, we have it running into a fuse block. Now if you notice, this is a 4-terminal fuse block, and we only have 1 power wire going into it. The customer states he doesn't want any other accessories at this moment. Later on, if he wants some more, we can add some pigtail jumpers from the main power wire going into the fuse block. Now, in order to mount the fuse block, we're just going to mount it on the side of the controller cover with some two-sided tape, and it'll be good to go. We already have the power wire, yellow wire, going into the battery. We already have the black ground wire going into the ground as well. The last step is to just stick this cover on, stick some double-sided tape to the back of this fuse panel, stick it on the side of the controller cover, and power it up. So right now the soundbar is on, it's playing. And one reason we did the key switch, once we turn the key switch off here, it's going to automatically shut off the sound. Just like that. Now if we turn the key switch back on, it's going to take a few seconds and then the sound will remain playing. You might have to hit play on the remote. Now on this soundbar here, it comes with two remotes. One is for the audio and one's going to be just for the lights.